So on this next step, we're going to use the same procedure as the previous step. We're going to cement some parts together and we're going to clamp them with our machine screws to keep them tight while they dry. We're going to do this on some smaller pieces, but there's still parts that let us make some mistakes with the cement if we're still at a point where we're getting used to how this stuff handles. So we're just getting started. That's totally appropriate to still need a little bit of practice. So we're going to do that on some parts that will be okay if there's still some mistakes being made. The other thing I'll say about cement is, as often as possible, I try to keep the tube's actual cap on if I can. So sometimes as soon as I'm done applying cement, I'll actually pull the applicator tip off and put the cap on, just to keep cement from gunking up in the actual tube itself. Gunked up cement in the applicator tips is no problem to clear out, and we'll deal with that later. But if you get cement gunked up in your actual tube, that can be a bit more of a hassle. So we're going to cement together the perch supports, and these are little plates. Well, they'll end up as vertical tabs in our machine that hold the perch in place. So we have 3 of them. 2 of them are identical, and then one has kind of these ears, almost like I guess looks a little bit like a weird Frankenstein or something. Anyway, I guess it's only because it's green. But and each one of these will get one of these smaller parts here that have 2 matching holes for the holes on these supports. And another thing, just like with my clear plastic, my solid color in this case, which is green, it has also been sanded and scuffed just to be a little less reflective so that it doesn't flash the camera with my work light as badly. I also have 6 10mm machine screws over here and 6 nuts, and my pliers are ready and my driver is ready. And the procedure is pretty much the same as we did with that base plate. I'm going to run some machine screws through these holes here on all 3 of these supports. It's okay if your machine screws fit a little tight and they actually need to be spun through like that, threaded through the holes. That's just fine. The machine screws also help us keep our parts aligned. So it's a good thing that that they're not super loose in the holes that were designed for them. So yeah, mine needed a little help to get in here. So now I have all 3 of those guys ready to go. So the procedure is going to be to cement one of these smaller parts and just get it onto the machine screws here. And it might be necessary also to screw that down in the same way like this, even without a nut on the back of the screw, just because the screw holes are a little tight. That is an okay thing. If you do end up in this situation, make sure you tighten each side a little bit at a time to keep it kind of even as you get it into place versus screwing one side all the way down and then trying to screw the other side down, which could bend the part. So yeah, I got kind of a tight fit here, but that is okay. And it's okay if your parts are a little bit loose. The holes aren't so large that things can get badly out of alignment, and this is not an alignment critical part either. And we will hit some of those later in the build, but we'll talk about those when we get to them. Okay, enough fooling around. I'm ready to go. So I'm going to do this one first. So I'll get my cement ready. Get my applicator on. And in this case, I'm going to apply my cement to the large part, just like that. That's a decent blob, maybe a little more than I need. But it isn't going to hurt anything if it squishes out. Then I'll get my smaller piece on, pressed into place. And so I did get some pretty good squish out here on this bottom. One thing you can do is you can use an applicator tip that you haven't used yet to just kind of mop that away. You can also use some spare pieces of acrylic from your laser cutouts, whichever you prefer. I'm not going to put the nuts on there yet because I want to keep moving here and get cement on all three of these, and then I'll tighten them down. So we have a couple minutes to work with our cement before it starts to get hardened. We have, I think, 2 or 3 minutes to work with it before it turns into a gel, and then after that it takes it quite a bit longer to actually set up. And I have one of those tight fits we talked about there, so I'm just going to alternate my screws here. I'm going to try to hold this a little bit flat so that my liquid cement doesn't run too far. I don't want it to run out from under my part while I'm getting it ready. Again, this step only if you end up with pieces that have really tight fits with the screws. And I have a little bit of excess here. Again, I'm just going to mop that away with an applicator tip that I kept around for that purpose. Move on to the last one. And also sometimes it'll be necessary to knock a little bit of cement off the end of the nozzle. But if you end up getting a nozzle clogged, again, do not squeeze that tube hard trying to knock that clog out of the way. And then since I'm done with the cement, I'm going to remove this and put the cap on, as we just discussed. And I'll put my little part on my last one. Hopefully it isn't too disorienting doing this, not knowing quite what these parts are. I think it's pretty clear how they, at least how they fit together, so hopefully that's good enough for you. Clean that up again. Now I'm going to put nuts on these. So I like to do this by hand for the first couple threads, just because I find that easier than trying to get them on with pliers. So we run into a funny situation here where it's a little bit difficult to hold a small part and pliers, so sometimes I go without. You'll notice I'm using just some pressure from my finger to hold that nut in place, but the nice thing about acrylic is that you can actually get the nut to sink into the acrylic a little bit, and you don't always need a wrench or pliers to get a nice clamping pressure. The nut itself will bite the acrylic just a little bit. It's not going to hurt anything, and let you spin that till it's tight. So I'm going to leverage that here because it's just a little bit too much to try to hold. So there we go. Just about done. I've gotten a little bit more experience putting the cement in and clamping, and by now we might be starting to get a pretty good idea of how much cement we can use before we start to squish it out. But there we go. So that's 3 perch supports all clamped up and ready to just dry, and I'm going to put these off to the side here with the part we finished in the previous step and let those just cure up, and that'll clear our work area so we can keep on moving.